Hello and welcome to the channel. Let's take a look at the reactions to this story briefly. Rutendo from Zimbabwe seems to understand exactly how governments fund their health systems, but wants South Africa to ignore it to favor Zimbabweans when it suits him. Take a look at this perspective. Let's talk about South Africa's healthcare system. Take a look.
I want you to watch this video over here of South African women that are denying a Zimbabwean woman and her children healthcare in South Africa. They are persecuting this woman and her children on the basis that she's a Zimbabwean and on the basis that she is illegal. That is discrimination. It is against South African law.
Let me give my 2 cents. Let truth be told, South African healthcare system, they have tried. Please, not every time we now say, oh, it's xenophobic. Sometimes, let's just say the truth. They've tried. Okay?
But South Africans who have entered Zimbabwe illegally have allegedly been arrested.
I'm not going to faff around these issues. Let me be straight with you now. I'm not going to faff around this. I'm not going to skirt around this issue anymore. Do you take responsibility for running Zimbabwe down the drain?
We take responsibility for Zimbabwe to become the fastest growing economy on the African continent, with billionaires investing in our lithium, with new steel plants being
How is it the fastest growing country in the world with inflation?
You can't read figures yourself. That's your problem. Come to Zimbabwe and see what's happening on the ground. I don't speak from an audio, a person who's based in the studio who speaks like a propagandist. I've been responsible for the investments which I'm talking about, so I know what's happening. We are building the largest steel plant in Africa. We are building lithium plants. We are exporting lithium concentrates. We are revamping our railways. We are growing this economy. The World Bank has said so. The IMF is saying so. Only you and some boneheads who try to paint Zimbabwe in a certain manner are trying to make us look like we are basket case. We are not.
In Zimbabwe, we've been having a long overdue debate about the need to improve our healthcare system. How did our healthcare system get to be where it is? For us to know how we fix it. Now, one of the obvious points is economic sanctions destroyed the healthcare system. However, before we talk about economic sanctions, we also have to look at whether we've been investing the right amount of money in Zimbabwean healthcare. And the debate was started by the Minister of Youth, Tino Machakaire, going to visit a relative in a hospital and then going onto Twitter and expressing his shock at the conditions of our healthcare system. Many Zimbabweans were pissed as to why the minister would not know that our hospital system and our healthcare system was in the condition that it's in. Yet ministers like Aaron Motsoaledi and Poppy Ramatlhodi in South Africa have been complaining that Zimbabweans keep coming across the border because of a bad healthcare system in Zimbabwe. Many also raised the fact that many important celebrities and politicians have died in our hospitals because of a lack of medication and a lack of medical equipment. I, however, didn't feel that it was necessary to denigrate the minister. Yes, the minister didn't know. He was probably incompetent not to know. But the fact that he now knows and has raised it publicly and has begun a campaign to ask the government and his president to improve the medical system is a starting step. And I think it's important for us to encourage a very important minister to continue to push for the buy-in by government to commit to improving the healthcare system. You see, the AU has got a target. They say that every single African nation needs to put up 15% of GDP towards healthcare if they want to bring their healthcare into an international standard within 25 years. Zimbabwe has not invested 15% of GDP into its healthcare. And without aid, it means Zimbabwe has been underfunding healthcare ever since we got independence in 1980.
Hello guys, my name is Prince Mtombeni Umaduma, a co-founder of South Africans for Constitutional Reform. Let's be clear. Calling for a constitution that prioritizes South African citizens is not xenophobia, it's not anti-African, and it's not a betrayal of Pan-Africanism. But it's a call for accountability, fairness, and dignity for the people owed those rights. Pan-Africanism doesn't mean sacrificing South Africans on the altar of political correctness. It doesn't mean silencing the lived realities of our own citizens. And it certainly doesn't mean asking people to ignore injustice in their everyday lives just to sound woke online. By the way, we did address the land section in our submission, but what some of you are doing is patronizing. Why? Because when it's your struggle, it's urgent. When it's our struggle, it's inconvenient. So we will continue to speak our truth, whether it makes some people uncomfortable or not, because South Africans deserve a constitution that prioritizes them. If you believe in justice, you would agree. Thank you for watching.
I think the problem we have, it is the constitution and the interpretation of the constitution by the judges and magistrates. So if you look at the first pages of the constitution, especially this page, if I may show it in the constitution, if you look at this page, size with South Africa, which is South African, it is 1.2 million square kilometers. A population as of 2025 in South Africa, it is 64.7 million people that are living in South Africa. So I believe the reason why those two things are included in the constitution, this constitution only applies, or its supremacy only applies within the borders of South Africa as a 1.2 square kilometers, and it applies to the population of South Africa, which is 64 million people in South Africa. So if you look check the background of the constitution, now that we have the supreme law, where does it come from? It's constitution so so 1902 abelungu they take over between 1908 and 1909 bahlale phansi abelungu namabhunu to say bafowethu, let us sit down and have a constitution that will govern us as this new because there were four different colonies. There was Natal colony, there was Cape colony, there was Orange River colony, there was a Transvaal colony. So they want to unify those four colonies to form one country. So back in 1908 and 1909 baba ne national convention lapho yayibanjelwe la eThekwini, esibindi abanjelwe Cape Town, enye abanjelwa eBloemfontein. La the main discussion kule national convention was to draft a constitution that will unify these four colonies, right? So babe nayo ke lelo khungane ngizosheshisa babe nayo le convention le, and in 1909 then the report, remember at this time they are under the British monarch, but reported Britain. So the British Parliament then ibeka umthetho obizwa ngokuthi i-South African Act. I-South African Act yasibeka umthetho othi now sekusungulwa izwe ekuthiwa i-South Africa ebizwa ngokuthi i-Union of South Africa ngo-1910 ibekwa yi-Parliament lase-Britain, or a British Parliament. So that is how South Africa became what it is now. In 1961 there was another constitution that was enacted. AI abolished the South African Act, right? And the constitution in 1961 changed South Africa from being the Union of South Africa to being the Republic of South Africa. But even in this constitution in 1961, there's no mention of the right to have access to healthcare services. Again, in 1983, another constitution is introduced. This constitution, what's different was that now Indians and Khaleds were going to be represented in Parliament, not black people. Black people are still sidelined. We move along to the interim constitution in 1993. That's the constitution of chapter 3Y, where we now get introduced to the Bill of Rights in the constitution. But when the constitution in 1996, we see a Bill of Rights as chapter 2. So the only time we get introduced to the right of access to healthcare services, it is in the 1993 interim constitution. And that is because black people were sidelined. Black South Africans were sidelined from everything. So in chapter 2 of the 1996 constitution, that is where we then have the provision, section 27. Section 27 of the constitution, everyone has the right to have access to healthcare services. I'm dealing with Section 27, subsection 1, or everyone. So considering the history that I've just given, when we come in 1996, the legislature decided to include everyone, to say in Section 27, everyone has a right of access to healthcare services. So my question is, by everyone, were they meaning and white South Africans, black South Africans, Indian South Africans, and colored South Africans? So that is everyone in the context of South Africa. And I doubt they foresaw the influx of illegal foreigners in South Africa, right? Another issue or another problem that I have, it is the misinterpretation of the provision by the judges, the magistrates, and the lawyers. It meant everyone, meaning every South African, being black, colored, Indian, and so I believe the only people or are the magistrates and the judges. The Constitution says everyone has the right to access to healthcare services, but it does not say everyone has a right to public healthcare services. It does not say public healthcare. It says healthcare services, meaning that even private hospitals should provide healthcare services to illegal foreigners, right? So I maintain people that misinterpreted this provision, that forgot to take into consideration the context as a South Africa, the political context or the background history as a South Africa, by interpreting wrong only because they wanted to win the cases at that particular time. If we do not protect our nurses and doctors and hospitals and our healthcare system, it is definitely going to collapse. We do not have to amend the Constitution. No, subsection 2, section 27, the state must take reasonable legislative and other measures within its available resources to achieve the progressive realization of each of those rights. Because I still maintain that everyone that is found in section 27 does not refer to illegal foreigners, refers to every South African citizen, every black, colored, white, and Indian South African.
Well, there you have it. Sentiments coming in there. I love that lengthy explanation taking us back through the history of South Africa and how we got here as a nation. Now that we are here, we see South Africa becoming popular all of a sudden with other African nations. The current income tax, which is the biggest contributor to our revenue, will not be sufficient to provide free services, meaning that the funding model should then change as time goes on. Therefore, it is good that we talk about these things, as uncomfortable as they are, and then understand what are the possible solutions besides violence. What are the possible solutions? Seek diplomacy with neighboring countries, and of course have other funding models, as I said, request funding from other sources so that it can cover the influx. Let me know what your sentiments are down below. Please give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you on the next video.